Hello everyone, ni hao. My name is Widyantika. I'm student from Institute of Informatics and Business Dharma Jaya. Here we will explain about carbon tax in Indonesia and China. Firstly, I will introduce my friends.
Hello, introduce myself. My name is Alda Viva Chairunisa. I am from Group 2. Thank you.
Hello guys, my name is Fildasa Cahyani.
Hello everyone, introduce myself. My name is Ankita Putri Maulitia and I'm from Group 2. Thank you.
Carbon tax in Indonesia. Provisions and implementation of carbon tax in Indonesia on economic growth. Here, every company that uses fossil fuels for all its needs so as to produce carbon emissions will be subject to a carbon tax. The carbon tax will be payable when the consumer buys the carbon-containing goods or at the end of the calendar year for producers who produce carbon emissions. Implementation of carbon tax in Indonesia. Government of Indonesia took Law Number 7 of 2021 in Article 30 of the HPP law. It is stated that the government of Indonesia will impose a carbon tax on every carbon emission produced from both production and consumption activities. There are two carbon tax collection schemes in Indonesia. One, cap and trade. It means for this scheme, entities that produce emission in excess of the cap are required to purchase emission permit certificates or CIE from other entities whose emissions are under the cap. Entities can also purchase emission reduction certificates or SPE. For example, if a generating company produces CO2 that exceeds the cap, this company must buy CIE from a company that produces emission under the cap or can also buy SPE. 2. Cap and tax. Meanwhile, this cap is intended for the remaining emission that cannot be covered by the purchase of CIE. The tariff used is 30 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent CO2e. For example, if generating company R still has excess emission remaining that cannot be covered by purchasing CIE, then the related company must pay carbon tax at a predetermined rate. Judging from Indonesia's 2021 until 2025 carbon tax roadmap, the implementation of the two schemes and the expansion of the carbon content sector will take place in 2025. Yes, this picture is schemes of tax. There is cap and trade and cap and tax. As mean. Here, cap and tax. This scheme is a combination of carbon tax and carbon trading. In a sense, each company will be given a limit on permitted emission, or known as a cap. If the company produces more carbon emissions than the allowable limit, then the company must pay for the excess difference. This payment method can be made with two options, either by trading carbon emission or by carbon tax. Every company has the first scheme, namely carbon trading, then the produce carbon emission below the given limit. And even then, the company does not find other companies. They produce under the cap or the company doesn't want to try to find other companies that produce emissions under the cap. Then the company can choose to be subject to carbon tax only. Yes, carbon tax is one of the value instruments of the carbon economy. Objective first, 1. Changing behavior. Aims to change the behavior of economic actors to switch to low carbon green economic activities. 2. Support emission reduction. Supporting GHG emission reduction targets in the medium and long term. 3. Driving innovation and investment, encouraging the development of carbon markets, technological innovation, and investment that are more efficient, low carbon, and environmentally friendly. In application principles, there are 1. Fair, based on the polluter pays principle. 2. Affordable, paying attention to the affordability aspect for the benefit of the wider community. And last, regularly, pay attention to the readiness of the sector so as no bother the community. So, that's carbon tax as one of the value instrument of the carbon economy.
Okay, next. In the 2021 Bill on Revision of General Provision and Tax Procedure, the government processed a tax of 75 Indonesian rupiah for 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalent or CO2 emissions, which is equivalent to around $5.20 per ton of CO2. Indonesia has pledged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 26% from business level this year and by 29% by 2030 under 2050 Paris Climate Agreement. As the Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that as an archaeology country, Indonesia has a great interest in preventing drastic climate change in a meeting with the DPR Commission 10, which deals with banking and finance. On the other hand, the government continues to lack funds to fight climate change. The Ministry of Finance estimates Indonesia needs 266 Indonesian rupiah trillion or $18.3 billion annually to mitigate climate change. Between 2016 and 2019, the government was only able to pay 86.7 Indonesian rupiah trillion per year or 32% of the next. For carbon tax in Indonesia, currently they are still termed carbon levies because these carbon tax have various forms, both taxation and non-taxation. Unrelated to the practice matter, the potential object that will be subject to this carbon tax include fossil fuels and emission issues by factory or motorized vehicles. And this potential object is not too much different from the practice in other countries. With regard to the use of emissions of economic activities, the Indonesian government will focus on imposing a carbon tax on the pulp and paper, cement, power generation, and petrochemical industry and the plan for levying on this carbon tax has been submitted by the coordinating ministry for the economic Erlangga Hartarto, which will be contained in the revision of KUP law. Revision of this law has also entered into the Legislative Program Nasional or Proglenas, which will priority this year. As of November 2021, carbon in Indonesia is in progress trial preparation after its regulation patented through Law Number 7 Year 2021 regarding harmonizing of tax regulation. Next, this is future more there is the impact of carbon tax on business continuity. This is imposed tax certainly has an impact on the price of the goods procedure, and in the end, it is the consumer who has to bear it. In the mining sector, the amount of carbon produced from this business depend on the type of commodity. Example is mineral. Aluminium is one of the commodities that produce the largest amount of carbon, followed by steel and nickel. Carbon from aluminum comes from cheap electric energy, which is widely used in China. Steel and nickel produce carbon derived from the use of coal as a reducing agent for the processing of iron ore or nickel ore. In addition, the electricity used also comes from the LTU. Copper, zinc, and gold are commodities that produce low carbon. This means that the application of a carbon tax does not have much effect on the selling price of this commodity. It will be very different from aluminum, steel, and nickel. The price will increase sharply with the implementation of the carbon tax. The impact of implementing the carbon tax itself includes: the first is there will be a larger allocation of aluminum, steel, and nickel similar to countries that have not implemented carbon tax. Next, the second is changing commodity price as a result of carbon taxes have forced business sector to subsidize high carbon producing mineral with low carbon ones. And the third is the use of renewable energy in the mining sector will increase. Although the electricity generated by renewable energy is more expensive than fossil energy, the overall cost of production will be cheaper with the introduction of a carbon tax. Okay, next, this is a carbon tax rate. Based on the fiscal and market policy framework, the Indonesia government plans to collect a minimum carbon tax rate of 30 rupiah per kilograms or CO2. This rate is lower than the provision in the KUP bill that was previously made. Regarding the calculation, if it is equated with the carbon tax unit applied by a number of other countries or with the unit per ton, then the carbon tax rate in Indonesia is as follows. This is the example. Carbon tax per kilogram of CO2 equal with unit weight. And next, then how does the tax rate in Indonesia compare with other countries? To find out, the tax rate must be converted into United States dollar. Here the calculation. This is an example. If the tax rate compared to United States dollar. This rate may seem relatively lower than the carbon tax rate policies that apply in other countries. For example, Singapore imposed this tax rate of 3.6 US dollar per ton, while in Japan it is around 2.3 US dollar per ton. With this value, the tax rate is equivalent to Colombia and Chile. However, this value is smaller than Argentina, which applies a carbon tax rate of 5.54 US dollar. Thank you.
Okay, here I will explain about carbon tax in China. Carbon tax is an effective measure to beat low carbon economy and has significant influences on economic growth. In fact, China experienced a 1% reduction in emission, its first decline since 2001. This is a positive development reflecting in part China's major carbon intensity reduction. The effort resulted in a 5% reduction in carbon intensity during just the first half of 2014. Additionally, the carbon reduction reflects China's slowing economy, which grew at approximately 7%, which though significant is a major declaration from decade of double-digit growth. However, this year's decline is unlikely to mean that China's downward carbon trend is likely to become the norm. The low-hanging fruit in China's emission reduction are quickly running out. It is crucial therefore that China intensity its effort to control carbon emission if we are to see a continuation in the trend toward lower carbon emission. A national trading scheme or ETS for China. To achieve a continuing decline in carbon levels, China policymakers are now planning to implement a national ETS scheme next year to try and rein in and then eventually reduce its greenhouse gas emission. This national effort comes after China launched seven pilot ETS projects across the country beginning in 2013. Currently, China plans to implement a national ETS in 2016. Originally set for implementation in 2020, the national ETS has been brought forward to coincide with the unveiling in 2016 of the new five-year plan. Although this this is a positive step. The use of an ETS to put a price on China greenhouse gas emission might not be the most effective policy instrument available. Since ETS are designed to restrict the emission of large producers, they lack the ability to alter public consumption patterns. An ETS scheme is intended to enact a price for the externality of greenhouse gas and create efficient emission reduction through the distributive effect of an open market, the effectiveness of which depends upon a high carbon price and a high degree of liquidity within the carbon market. Carbon emission trending in China. China has seen the successive introduction of a regional emission trading system in various provinces and cities: Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangdong, Tianjin, Hubei, Chongqing, and Fujian since mid-2013, providing valuable experience for the central government to put in place a national carbon pricing mechanism. Each of the provinces has set up respective carbon intensity goals. The regional emission trading system have also adopted carbon intensity-based caps on emission, rather than an absolute cap, which is the case in other emission trading systems internationally. The Chinese government believes that this approach is the most suitable given the twin demands of achieving economic growth and emission reduction. The National Development and Reform Commission of China issued the development plan for the national carbon emission trading market or power sector, hereinafter referred to as the National ETS Development Plan in 2017. It was decided that the national carbon market will initially conduct trading in the power generation sector and gradually expand the coverage as other industry develop the necessary capacity. The National ETS Development Plan put forward the goals for the development of the national carbon market, clarified the tasks to be complete prior to the start of trading activities, and confirmed three-step roadmap: the development of market infrastructure, a trading simulation stage, and a stage for market maturation. According to the development plan, the market would enter the stage of a mature market about 1 year after the simulation stage was launched. Okay, uh, on this slide, I found an example of case study about environmental benefit from carbon tax in the China carbon market. And this case study, computable general equilibrium or CGI model to examine the effect of such energy efficiency and climate change policy option in the post-COVID-19 era in the China economy. Because of China's global responsibility to address climate change, the country has made a commitment to limiting the growth of future emissions using policy measures such as funding, mitigation research and regulation energy efficiency requirement directly. Extension of these policies, such as the measures to improve energy efficiency, use of carbon tax, and change to the mix of electricity generation in the country, are also of interest to China. The study findings showed that even modest measures can have significant effect on emission with marginal economic impact, given the current level of development in the China electricity generation and transportation sectors. It is estimated that a 5 RMB per ton carbon tax will reduce emission by 4.1% and GDP by 0.127%. Emission dropped by 8.2% and GDP dropped by 0.54%. When energy efficiency increases by 2% across the China economy, and respectively as a final result, a 5% shift away from burning coal would reduce emission by 9% while GDP would increase by 1.3%. It has been shown that even low carbon tax can encourage a notable cleaner energy system. Okay, thank you for that. The explanation from me about carbon tax in China. My friend will discuss the next discussion. Thank you.
Legislation and penalties for the national ETS. The MEE issued a notice on selection opinion on the interim regulation on the administration of carbon emission trading, revised draft, on its official website on March 30, 2020. Legislation and penalties for the national ETS, the MEE issued a notice on selection opinion on the interim regulation on the administration of carbon emission trading, revised draft, on its official website on March 30, 2021, further seeking opinion on the revised regulation of the State Council on the administration of carbon emission trading. The regulation clarifies the maximum administrative fine which can be imposed against enterprises in violation of the regulation range from CNY 100,000 to NY 500,000. Again, non-performance and deduction the number of allowance not fully settled in the ensuing year. The current quick assure for the administration issued on December 31, 2020 only species plants of between NE 20,000 and CNE 30,000 and a deduction of the arrays in the ensuing year. This is unlikely to be a sufficient deterrent. National carbon trading began at 9:30 am on July 16, 2021 trading in the national ETS was officially launched. Han Zheng, Vice Premier of the State Council, Ding Shuidong, Executive Deputy Secretary General of the State Council, Sun Jinlong, Party Secretary of the MEE, Huang Runqi, Minister of the MEE, and Xi Zhenhua, China's China's Special Representative on Climate Change Affairs attended the launching ceremony for online trading in the national carbon market. The carbon emission of over 2,000 power companies were covered in the first period of trading, exceeding 4 billion tons. This means China's carbon market has become the world largest in terms of the amount of carbon emission covered, as the scale has extended that of the EU. The trading entities of the national carbon market are key emitting units as well as eligible institutions and individuals. During the initial stage of the market, for trading of allowance is only carried out among 2,162K emitting enterprises in the power sector. It is expected that financial institutions and individual investors will gradually join in trading in the future. The national carbon market will be expanded during the 14th five-year plan period. During the 14th five-year plan period, the national carbon market will gradually cover eight energy-intensive industries, including petrochemicals, chemicals, building materials, steel, non-ferrous metals, paper making, and civil aviation, in addition to the power sector. The first completion period of the national carbon market covers 2,162 enterprises that emit more than 26,000 tons of carbon dioxide a year in the power generation sector. Although the volume of emission is large, there is little variation in the cost of carbon emission reduction for thermal power generation units, given a high degree of homogeneity within the industry. The gradual inclusion of more industry with high emission, including aviation, papermaking, and building materials, and the introduction of more emitting entities with varying mitigation costs will help to give more full play to the role of market-based carbon pricing. Transaction data for China's carbon market. As of December 31, 2021, 178,8 million tons of allowance had been traded in the national carbon market, with a value of CNY 7,7 billion. The national carbon emission trading market had been in operation for 114 trading days. The first completion cycle of the national carbon emission trading market then successfully ended by December 31, 2021. The complication rate stood at 99,5%, skying the start of online trading. The national carbon market has seen stable operation, growing awareness of emission reduction among enterprises, and an increasingly active market. In general, the role of the national carbon market as a key policy tool to control and reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote the realization of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality goals. has been gradually enhanced.
Thank you for your attention and see you guys!